So if the grey spend is the messy middle between services and contingent workforce, what are the drivers as to why an organization might want to identify that grey spend and kind of look into it? What would you say were the key? Because
Sure.
immediately when you were talking about it, I was kind of thinking about like efficiency. I was thinking about potential misclassification. But what are the things that you think would drive that as to why an organization would want to do this, to identify it?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly there's the compliance side of things. And I'm always, kind of want to build compliance into whatever we're doing to protect the business slash the company. On the value side, I think the basic thing, as somebody who could sell services or did sell services, you're by selling a service, you bring, this depth of understanding and capability that you can do things better, faster, cheaper, and therefore rely on me, right? Take my service, whether it's helping somebody outsource their procurement or outsource some of their IT or whatever it might be. So let's call it 20%. That's not it's just a round number, 20%. So a service provider should provide all of the benefits of a warranty, a guarantee, getting things right quality wise and doing it for cheaper, as opposed to body shopping it and doing it yourself. And we all know the first time you do something yourself, it's not going to go as fast or as smooth or as cheap as you might want it. Maybe after 5, 10 times, it'll get better. But so that's why you buy services. So when you end up seeing services just selling body shop, being a body shop and selling bodies in, you're just like, okay, well, we're obviously not getting the value. We're not getting the guarantees that we should get, and we're not getting outcomes that we think we're buying. And part and parcel, that comes back to how did you write the specification on the front end to get things done. And that algorithm we put together help test that specification. Is it really just sound like and look like and walk like a duck, meaning temporary labor, as opposed to being, hey, we're looking for a project outcome of X over a period of Y with these milestones, which tends to be the standard, but ultimately can disintegrate into just bodies, hours, rates, titles, and uh, change requests. And that was another thing we looked at, the amount of change requests that would come through against the original SOW or contracted price, and that would get you to the true price, which was a lot more typically than what you thought you were spending. So we're trying to put um, some cases together around, hey, these are different situations where we are spending way more than we need to, even if we were to body shop that or contract labor it through and manage ourselves. So what we brought back to the business was a couple $100 million of savings if we were to either route it properly through services procurement and write good specifications slash manage that operationally, and then supplier performance management, or give them the option to properly and compliantly go through um, temporary labor or contingent labor.
I mean, that's not insignificant, even for a massive organization
Yeah,
like a BP, for example. That's certainly yeah, certainly a very significant amount of money. So so in terms of why organizations might want to identify this, there's clear reasons around value, compliance, and you know, operational efficiency and effectiveness, I guess. Um, it's interesting you mention about the change request side of it. I mean, that I see that come up all the time where it's like, people are saying, well, this consultancy A has got a cheaper day rate than consultancy B, and it's like,
yeah,
don't just look at that. Come on, look at the bigger picture here. But also one of the things that I am hearing more and more these days is maybe a little bit of more of a shift or a recognition of the value of outputs and outcomes, where people are organizations are looking for certainty of outcome. I know that getting this customer facing app in place is going to cost I don't know 500K, and if the supplier is late with it, then it's only going to cost 450K or 400K, depending on what happens and how late it is, for example. So the responsibility, the risk is on the supplier to deliver that versus even like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, hearing people talk much more about their concern about engaging on an output or outcome basis because it felt more expensive. Whereas actually, if you look at the kind of the certainty of outcome is trying to get away from hiring contractors and temps on the never never, as I put it, where they
Mhm.
could just it's in their interest to keep the work going as long as possible potentially. I'm not saying that always happens,
Right.
but that can be open to that type of behavior, that misuse. But if this is not managed correctly, the certainty of outcome, if people are just doing change order after change order, that's if that feels like the same problem to me, or a different flavor of the same problem.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes when you even look through the contract labor, you start putting contractors in org charts, and you see, in a lot of ways, they aren't typically put in money making or decision making roles, but in other ways they are, where you find contractors managing a lot of contractors, and not just for, say, a formal project, but almost kind of line management wise, if you will. Aligning interests and making sure that we're, again, back to the nature of the work you want to get done. And part of asking the right questions and getting a clear specification seems like it goes a little slower. And today, hopefully with AI, we can do it a little faster with templates, et cetera, et cetera. But, saying that slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And ultimately, the whole timeline looks a lot more as expected, as opposed to in getting to the business outcome, as opposed to this kind of scattershot approach to things. Um, yeah, I think that messy middle we were talking about is typically, and the mechanism either called a schedule to a contract, or an SOW, a scope of work that's a call off, if you will. The volume of those, and there's usually some threshold. Maybe a company puts 100,000, below $100,000, they kind of get fast tracked. Ours was $1 million. They get fast tracked. Well, that means they go offshore, no real business context around it. It's kind of doesn't meet the 12, we had 12 points of light on a rec, and did it meet all those? And yes, it's fine, get it through. Don't, speed is money, right? Speed is money, and you don't want to slow things down, but you also don't want to make unwise investments, if you will. Whatever your threshold, whether it's $100,000 or $1 million, that's where you can catch it right at the beginning and kind of course correct a bit. And that course correction, I think, is what gets you channeled the right procurement or buying channel to go down through. Um, and it doesn't, and again, with technology the way it is today, um, right, some of that fast tracking can occur just with AI agents, to some extent, and or kind of the rerouting for a check, if you will, to get the right eyes on it, so that we buy correctly and we get what we think we're going to get out the back end. Um, the opportunity to collaborate here is big, and I guess this is part of, uh, in some organizations, right? The services buying doesn't really align with the contingent labor buying. And I partnered internally, so my goal was to partner internally, both with customers and peers, if you will, partner externally with the right suppliers, and then partner with the industry so you can learn together, if you will. So partnering internally sometimes meant, you know, the services procurement or IT procurement against contingent labor was, well, that's our spend, and I get, uh, valued more because I have a bigger spend. And it's not hard to dwarf contingent labor spend with services spend. It's just usually on a larger scale. But the idea was that when we did that program around applying some AI and some intelligence to the requisitions, we did that together. And my goal was, hey, let's push it all through services procurement. We don't need to channel it this way if it's not the right way to go. And we're going to get more value. We should get more value by buying services correctly.